I was 5 when I let go of my mother's hand at the train station and never saw her again. A woman took me in and raised me like her own. But the truth she hid for 17 years shattered my world. People say memory fades with time. But some memories, they burn into your soul like scars. Permanent. Unforgiving. Always there when it rains. I was 5 years old when I got lost at the Rawalpindi train station. And I remember everything. The smell of samosas in the air. The rust of iron rails. The loudspeaker calling names I didn't understand. And most of all, my mother's hand. Slipping from mine. We were boarding a train to Lahore. Amy had bags in both hands. I had a red plastic toy. It was crowded, suffocating. 1 second, her fingers were wrapped around mine. And the next, I was alone in a sea of legs, voices, and noise. I screamed. Cried. Ran in the wrong direction. By the time a policeman picked me up and asked for my name, I could barely speak. And my name is Mariam, I sobbed. What's your mother's name, Beta? Amy. That's all I had. No full name. No address. No number. Just a first name, and the toy in my hand. They kept me at a small police post near the station. But no one came. Night fell. I cried myself to sleep in the arms of a constable who smelled like cigarettes and chai. The next morning, a woman showed up. She wore a faded pink dupatta and had kind but tired eyes. She knelt beside me, touched my hair, and said, "You don't have to be scared anymore, John. I'll take you home." I didn't know who she was. But she smelled like soap and safety. I clung to her. Because I had no one else to cling to. Her name was Shabana. She lived alone in a small house near Liaquat Bog. A widow. No children. No family. But she welcomed me like I had always belonged there. She made me rice with ghee. Braided my hair. Let me sleep in her bed. And slowly, I began to call her Amy. The police case was closed after a few months. No family ever came forward. No one claimed me. And so, I stayed. Years passed. I started school. Then college. My name became Mariam Shabana. But sometimes, I dream of another voice calling me. A woman with bangles on her wrists, holding my hand through a busy train station. Shabana never talked about that day. Whenever I asked, "Amy, what happened when you found me?" she just smiled gently and say, "Allah sent you to me. That's all that matters." But something in her eyes always flickered when I asked. Like there was a story buried underneath. Something she couldn't say. By the time I turned 20, I had everything, a home, a mother, a future. But no origin. No real date of birth. No memory of my real family. No idea where I was from. Shabana had filed fake documents to enroll me in school. A made-up birthday. A made-up father's name. I was a girl created out of silence. And part of me was okay with that. Until the letter came. Envelope, the letter that changed everything. It was an ordinary Tuesday. I had just come home from university. Shabana was napping. I picked up the mail from outside. Among bills and flyers was an envelope with no return address. Just one line. You're not who you think you are. Inside was a small black and white photo of a woman holding a child. It looked like me. And a note. Your real mother never stopped searching. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My hands trembled. I stared at Shabana sleeping, peaceful, aging, unaware. Who sent this? Why now? And why hide the truth for 17 years? That night, I couldn't sleep. Questions raced through my mind like fireflies with knives. I crept into Shabana's room and searched. Inside an old trunk at the back of her closet, I found it. My old red toy. A scarf with dried blood. A newspaper clipping dated August 3, 2006. Missing child, 5-year-old girl lost at Rawalpindi station. The photo beside it was me. Candle. The photo trembled in my hand. The edges were soft, worn down by time. But the headline was clear. Missing child, 5-year-old girl lost at Rawalpindi station. It was me. My face. My toy. My pink shoes. A memory buried under years of love and silence. The red plastic toy was in the same trunk, tucked under a prayer mat, as if she had tried to bury the truth beneath religion. And next to it, a scarf, faded, torn, with what looked like dried blood. I sat on the cold floor of her room, unable to breathe. Unable to believe that everything I knew about my life was built on a lie. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't move. Didn't cry. At far time, Shabana walked into the room, rubbing her eyes. She froze when she saw me. The toy in my hand. The clipping on the floor. The open trunk. Where did you find that? She asked. Her voice wasn't angry. It was resigned. Like she had always known this day would come. I didn't say a word. Just stared at her. She sat down on the edge of the bed. Her hands shook. You were lost. Crying. Dirty. The police didn't know what to do with you. They kept you in a small room for 2 days. She looked up at me, her eyes glassy. I was at the station to meet someone, but they never came. When I saw you, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I had lost my child 2 years earlier, a daughter. She died from dengue. And when I saw you, she looked away. I didn't plan to take you. I only wanted to comfort you. But then the days passed, and no one came. No family. No news. So you just kept me? I asked, my voice trembling. She nodded. I told the officer you were mine. That you had wandered off. He didn't question it. Just handed you to me. That was the day I stopped being Shabana the widow and became Shabana the mother. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought you'd forget. You were so small. So broken. I gave you everything I had. I thought maybe I could fill the emptiness. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I never wanted to lie. But the longer I waited, the more impossible it became. Who sent me that letter? She hesitated. I don't know. Don't lie. I truly don't. But I've seen that photo before. Where? In a newspaper. Years ago. A story about a mother who still searched for her daughter after 10 years. I cut it out and burned it. Why? She looked up at me, her voice cracking. Because I was scared she'd take you back. I stared at her. Not with anger, but with the weight of betrayal. I had loved her. She had raised me. But she had also stolen me. That afternoon, I packed a small bag and left. Not out of hate, but because I needed answers. Real ones. From the people who had really lost me. From the woman who, even after all these years, might still be looking. I returned to the Rawalpindi station. The same platform. The same chaos. Only now, I was the one searching. I went to the police records office. It took 3 hours of pleading and paperwork. But finally, an officer handed me an old file. Inside, a report dated August 3, 2006. Name unknown. Approximate age 5. Description: female child, brown hair, pink dress, toy duck. Last seen, platform 4, 2:15 p.m. At the bottom, handwritten in red ink. No family response. Case closed, child presumed abandoned or deceased. But there was one name listed under reported missing the same day. Saadia Munir. A 32-year-old woman from Lahore. Contact lost after reporting daughter missing on a train journey. I had a name. Saadia. Could she be my real mother? I found her number in an old article online. It had been 17 years. What would I even say? Hi, I might be the daughter you lost. I dialed anyway. It rang once. Twice. Then a woman answered, her voice aged, soft, uncertain. Hello? I froze. Hello? Who is this? I closed my eyes. My name is Mariam. I was found at Rawalpindi station in 2006. I think you might be my mother. Silence. Then a breath. Then a cry. A long, broken sob that shook me through the phone. I never changed my number, she whispered. I prayed every day that one day you'd call. Candle. The drive to Lahore felt longer than it should have. Maybe because it wasn't just distance I was crossing. It was years. Identities. Lies. And a lifetime I had never lived. She gave me the address over the phone. A quiet neighborhood. Small, ordinary houses. One of them held the woman who gave birth to me, and never stopped looking. As I stepped out of the car, my heart thundered in my chest. What if I was wrong? What if she was? What if 17 years of longing ended in confusion, or worse, regret? The gate creaked open. She stood in the doorway. Gray scarf. Worn shawl. Bare feet. But her eyes were mine. She didn't run. Didn't scream. She just walked slowly, as if afraid I might vanish if she moved too fast. I froze. She stopped in front of me. Her lips trembled. Her hands hovered inches from my face, afraid to touch. "Can I?" she asked, voice shaking. I nodded. And she pulled me into her arms. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't warm. It was desperate, like drowning lungs gasping for breath after years underwater. She didn't speak for a while. Just cried softly into my hair. I stood still. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I didn't know if they were mine or hers. We sat together on a faded couch. There were pictures on the wall, all old. All untouched. One frame was empty. "I never took your photo down," she whispered. "Because you never really left." Then she told me everything. They were on a trip to visit her sister in Rawalpindi. We were at the station. She went to buy water. She turned around, and I was gone. In seconds. No scream. No trace. No goodbye. They searched every train. Every platform. They filed reports. Posted flyers. Ran from city to city. The police told us someone probably took you. Or you were dead. But I knew. I knew my daughter was alive somewhere. Breathing. Growing. Waiting. She opened a drawer and took out a box. Inside were dozens of newspaper cuttings, handwritten notes, and a pink shoe, the one I wore that day. Everyone said to move on. My husband left me after 2 years. Said I was living in a ghost story. But I couldn't stop. You were still out there. I broke down. She hugged me again, not as a stranger, but like a mother trying to hold 17 years of silence in her arms. I met my grandmother the next day. She cried when she saw me. She had aged in grief. Wrinkles carved by sorrow. Hair whitened by hope. I prayed for you every day. Every Eid, I left a plate for you at the table. They showed me my old toys. My birth certificate. Even a lock of my hair from my first haircut. They had never given up. And for the first time in my life, I saw a version of myself I never knew existed. Not Mariam Shabana, but Mariam Sadia Munir. I stayed 3 days. On the 4th, I packed my bag. "Where are you going?" Sadia asked, softly. "Back to Rawalpindi." She didn't argue. She just nodded. "Tell her, thank you." I didn't know what I'd say to Shabana. The woman who raised me. Who fed me. Protected me. Loved me like her own. But also, kept me from knowing who I truly was. She was waiting on the porch. Just like always. as if she'd known I would come back. We didn't hug. Just sat side by side. She never gave up on me, I said. She nodded. I wouldn't have either. I pulled out the photo, the one Sadia had kept for 17 years. She asked me to thank you. Her hands trembled as she took it. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. I didn't steal you, she whispered. I was just too afraid to give you back. I know, I whispered. But now I need to know both parts of myself. And that means leaving. She nodded again. This time, slower. Heavier. I was never meant to keep you forever. Only long enough to get you home. Candle. Some choices don't come with clear answers. There's no villain. No hero. Just people. And pain. I stood between two doors. Two homes. Two women. One gave me life. The other gave me a second chance at it. And now, I had to decide where my future would live. Shabana made my favorite meal, dal chawal with mint raita. We ate quietly. No tears. No questions. Just the sound of spoons against plates, and hearts heavy with everything we weren't saying. Later that night, I sat beside her as she read Quran. Her fingers trembled over the pages. You'll go in the morning? She asked. Yes. Will you call sometimes? I nodded. Every week. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You'll always be mine, Mariam. Even if the world says otherwise. That night, I went through her old trunk again. This time not in search of truth, but of memories. Photos. My school certificates. Letters she'd written but never given me. One line stood out. Even if she leaves one day, I will not call it loss. Because what I had was a gift I never deserved. Sadia had set up a room for me, with pink bedsheets, a vanity, even books she remembered I loved as a child. It was beautiful. But it felt like a museum exhibit titled, "The Daughter We Lost." She fussed over me. Cooked too much. Asked too many questions. And I could see it in her eyes, the fear that I might leave again. You're home now, she kept saying. Everything is as it should be. But, was it? I tried. 4 weeks. Tried to fit into the rhythm of this new life. Tried to become who I was supposed to be. But I had memories stitched into a different quilt. And sometimes, no matter how warm a new home is, you still miss the smell of the old one. One night, I sat across from Sadia. The TV played an old drama. But I could tell she wasn't watching. Neither was I. Ammi, I began. She looked up. Hope in her eyes. Always hope. I love you. And I'm grateful. But part of me still belongs to her. Her face fell, just slightly. Enough for me to see the crack. You don't have to choose, she whispered. But I do, I replied. Not between mothers. Between truths. I stood up. Walked to the window. You were right. I was never really gone. I lived a life. Loved. Laughed. I learned to braid my hair, ride a bike, cry during old movies. With her. I turned around. So now, I need to live both stories. Not erase one to honor the other, but walk forward with both of you inside me. Sadia's lips trembled. Then go, Beta. But don't forget us. Come back for Eid. 4 birthdays. For just chai. I smiled. I will. I promise. Today, I live in a small apartment between Rawalpindi and Lahore. I call Shabana every Friday. She sends me home-cooked food through bus drivers. Still labels the boxes, for my daughter. I visit Sadia every second weekend. She holds me for too long. Still tells her neighbors I've just come back from abroad. I now work at an NGO, helping lost children reconnect with families. Because I was lost. And then found. By 2 women. One who brought me into this world. And one who refused to let it break me. Sometimes, you're not just the daughter of the woman who birthed you, but also of the woman who stood in the shadows when the world forgot you. Love doesn't always come from blood. And belonging doesn't ask for proof. I used to think I was stolen. Then I thought I was found. Now, I know. I was always meant to be someone's home.